We start with breaking news, the imminent public release of the long-anticipated report on the U.S. Department of Justice and its handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Some details are already leaking, like the determination that the then FBI Director James Comey deviated from longstanding protocol, but was not motivated by political bias. Comey is one of the major players in all of this, along with the former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, Hillary Clinton, of course, and the President of the United States. The major questions are simple. Was proper protocol followed by the then FBI Director? We now know the answer there. Did inside forces in the FBI compromise the Clinton investigation? And was any campaign aided by the inclusion or exclusion of critically important information? Let's bring in our crime and justice reporter, Shimon Prokopez, and our senior congressional correspondent, Manu Raju. He's up on Capitol Hill. Shimon, so what do we know already about the report that's supposed to be publicly released within the hour?
Well, certainly some key findings here by the Inspector General here. So the idea, that the president has been touting this notion that the Clinton investigation was rigged, that there was bias somehow by the FBI in favor of Hillary Clinton, and that they didn't bring charges against her. Well, now we have our answer here from the Inspector General, who's been looking at this now for over a year, Wolf. And he's saying essentially in his report, what we're told is that there was no pro-Clinton bias. There was nothing to indicate that anything that the FBI did in their investigation would give any credibility, anything to the idea that, as the president has said, that this was somehow rigged. We've also learned here that Comey erred, that he made errors here in his decision not to coordinate with superiors at the Justice Department at key moments in the Clinton email investigation. And that relates to, of course, that press conference he held where he announced the decision and the results of the investigation. It also relates to essentially when the FBI, when James Comey decided to reopen the investigation just days before the election in November 2016. We all remember that happened as a result of emails that were found on the Anthony Weiner's laptop, and it was a letter that he had sent to the Hill to lawmakers, essentially saying that a new review was underway. And that certainly was controversial. And now we have the Inspector General here saying that these moments, these key moments in the investigation, it appears that Comey made some mistakes.
Yeah, certainly does. Manu, I know members of Congress are getting briefed on all of this. What's the reaction so far up on Capitol Hill?
Well, actually, you're hearing people from both sides picking out things that advance their narratives about exactly what happened in 2016. The Democrats say that in fact, what Comey did in his mishandling of the email investigation actually helped Trump become president. This is a statement from Jerry Nadler and Elijah Cummings, two top Democrats who reviewed the report. They say the stark conclusion that they have come up with after reviewing the report is that the FBI's actions helped Donald Trump become president. Now, Republicans see it differently, including Darrell Issa, a Republican who was in that briefing with the officials from the Inspector General's office. And what he heard was major problems in the way that the Justice Department handled this investigation, the James Comey's handling of this investigation. And other members, too, on the Republican side of the aisle say that there actually need to be further investigations, perhaps by a second special counsel to look into exactly what the FBI did wrong in 2016. Here's Senator Lindsey Graham just earlier today.
If we find systematic abuse at Department of Justice and FBI, then who's going to do something about it? I think you would need some independent eyes. If he suggests that the DOJ and the FBI got off the rails and did inappropriate things when it came to the Clinton email investigation, who's supposed to go figure out what should have happened? And to me, that's got to be somebody out of the Department of Justice, somebody that we all trust. I think Mueller was the right guy. I think he's doing his job in a professional manner. Pick somebody like him.
And Wolf, the release of this report is only going to intensify this debate going forward. Come Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to have a hearing about this 500-page report, and invited to that hearing is the former Deputy Director Andy McCabe, who is addressed in this report. And McCabe himself is facing a separate criminal investigation, and he wants immunity to testify at that hearing. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee told me earlier today that he does not expect immunity to be dealt with before Monday, but they're considering a subpoena to issue to compel his appearance, maybe not by Monday, but maybe to a later date. So, Wolf, this is not ending anytime soon. Republicans and Democrats still have a lot of questions, Wolf.
Yeah, they certainly do. All right, Manu, Shibon, guys, stand by. I know you're working your sources, and you'll bring us new information. In the meantime, I want to bring in our panel and Gloria Borger. The Republicans, or at least a lot of the supporters of the president, his top aides, they certainly have been hoping this long-awaited report would give them some ammunition to try to delegitimize, to derail the overall Russia probe that Robert Mueller is leading.
Right, and where you stand depends on where you sit in this investigation. And as Manu said, everybody's going to find something. And the important point here is that Comey misbehaved. He didn't behave according to Justice Department norms. He's severely criticized for it. So the president will say, see, I did the right thing in firing him. That was a good thing to do. I should have fired James Comey. But the Inspector General also did not find any evidence of a conspiracy at the heart of the FBI to hurt Donald Trump. In fact, I think it's just the opposite. And what Donald Trump has always been saying is that because Comey appointed some of these same people who worked with him on the email investigation to the Russia investigation, that there was a conspiracy against him, and the whole Russia investigation is therefore rigged against him. This clearly does not support that point of view. Trump will use it to say Comey's a bad guy, and I think that the Inspector General said he did not behave as he should have.
The president has often said, Margaret, that someday the American people will all stand up and thank him for firing Comey as the FBI director. Will this report bolster that?
It's hard to see that this report really changes the game. The two sort of sides of how you perceive this seem pretty well set. We know that what the president has been hoping for, wanting for all these months, is a recommendation for some sort of a criminal procedure to follow. And given what we've seen of the conclusion so far, it doesn't. There's no evidence that that's going to be the conclusion at all of this process. If you've listened to Comey, either if you've read his book or if you listen to his many kind of public expository discussions about this, he's always sort of indicated that he didn't feel there was a rule book for what was the right thing to do, that he knew that he was maybe stepping outside of the norms and kind of did what he thought was the right thing anyway. I doubt he would be shocked by the findings, but the fact that there is no kind of partisan putting the thumb on the scale, I think, is going to make it difficult for the president to get what he wanted to out of this.
Evan Perez, our justice correspondent, is getting some more information, specifically, Evan, on whether any criminal charges are likely to emerge from this Inspector General's report.
Well, Wolf, I think that's one of the things that the president has been pushing for. Certainly, he's been tweeting about it and saying that he believes people should go to jail for this. Certainly, we have already a criminal referral that has come out of this against Andrew McCabe, who is the former deputy director of the FBI, for lying to investigators. And that's the one that is still being looked at by prosecutors here in Washington. But as far as charges against James Comey, or perhaps even against Hillary Clinton, which is what you've heard repeatedly from some Republicans and the president in particular, it doesn't appear from what we're seeing in this report that is going to be coming forward. And so the president is probably going to be disappointed. But as Gloria and I think Margaret have pointed out, I think the president will certainly be able to use some of the findings in this report to support his claim that he was right to fire James Comey, that Rod Rosenstein's memo it was in which he described the reasons why James Comey had lost the confidence of the Justice Department was reason for him to be fired. And so, look, I think there's plenty of stuff here for the president to work with politically. But as far as getting criminal charges against Comey and against other people, I think he's going to be very disappointed when he reads this report.
There are apparently, Evan, and you correct me if I'm wrong, some new transcripts that are being released of text messages between some FBI agents, FBI personnel who were involved in the investigation, which show a pretty negative attitude toward Donald Trump.
Right, exactly. And we're talking about two FBI employees, Pete Strzok and Lisa Page, whose years-long affair and apparent texting that was going on for years was revealed as a result of this investigation. A lot of inappropriate texts were sent, including some which showed some definite political bias against Donald Trump. It appears they didn't like Hillary Clinton very much either, if you read some of these text messages. And certainly, I think there is enough here for the Attorney General and for the FBI to take action against those people. I think the Attorney General just today in an interview said that he expects that there might be some additional disciplinary action that might be forthcoming, and I suppose it's easy to expect that those two people are who he has in mind. But look, I think those text messages, notwithstanding, I think the top line from this Inspector General report is that even though you had these inappropriate messages being exchanged by people who were involved in this investigation, it did not affect the ultimate outcome. After all, Wolf, the people who were controlling this investigation were way above these two, and the Inspector General found that there was no political bias in the way the investigation was ultimately conducted.
Good point. April is with us. April Ryan, our CNN political analyst, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. Let me play a clip. This is Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General. He's obviously gone through this Inspector General's report. The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, highly regarded, seen by almost everyone as responsible and credible. Here's how Sessions described what he saw in the report.
I think it'll be a lengthy report and a careful report. It will be released soon. And I think it will help us better fix any problems that we have and reassure the American people that some of the concerns that have been raised are not true.
It's unclear what exactly he's referring to, but he's suggesting that, you know what, he has total confidence in this Inspector General report.
And it almost sounded a little bit like he could have been taking a jab at the president, too, as well. But, you know, it's interesting to hear what he has to say. I think back about the reputation of the FBI over the years, how it has been sullied. And he's trying to fix the reputation of the FBI by this 500-page report. And it's good that it comes from someone that people respect. But at the same time, you have to remember, if what we're hearing about this report is true, what Comey did was not political. It was not political. Was it the right timing? No. And I talked to someone from another administration who was a high-ranking official in the Justice Department who said, and I'm going to give you the word, they said he should have kept his ASS off the podium. And strong words. And that is really, I mean, what did Loretta Lynch have to do with that? What did she play in that, you know, to allow him to do that? That was wrong. And going back to what Margaret said, you know, there was no rule for that, but he should not have done that. And did it help Hillary Clinton? I don't think so. It seemed like it hurt her. Did it help Donald Trump win the presidency? We don't know. But this report is critical, and it's important that Jeff Sessions, who has recused himself from the Russia investigation, take this seriously, because the FBI, once again, is now under a cloud because of this IG report.
You know, and April makes a good point. Seth Waxman is with us, former federal prosecutor. You understand how all this works. The FBI does investigating, but they leave it to the Deputy Attorney General or the Attorney General or a U.S. attorney to say there is enough evidence for criminal charges to be filed or not. He instead did that himself as the FBI director, and that was seen as inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, typically you have your FBI agents out there doing the field work, making referrals to prosecutors, and then the prosecutors make the decision. So the fact that he went out front and center, you know, without consulting with the Attorney General, without consulting with prosecutors, is outside the norms. And, you know, it strikes, at least me, as kind of outside the normal scope of what he would typically do. You know, what strikes me also is that the chance of lock her up, you know, that we heard throughout this entire political campaign, this report does not seem to support that kind of finding.